첨단을 꿈꾸는 영국 런던, 그곳에는 런던 경영대학원이 있습니다. 새롭게 탄생하고 있는 런던. 전통의 도시이기도 하죠. 이제 이것도 인터넷이 지배하고 있습니다. 새로운 세계를 만드는 두 분의 CEO를 만나보시죠.
Those words weren't even in our vocabulary even 8 months ago.
짐 로스가 이끄는 온라인 경매 사이트인 QXL, 그리고 케빈 로버츠의 광고업계의 거인 사치앤사치는 하이테크 기업입니다.
Once we can connect emotionally on the net, it will become a more powerful medium.
유럽과 세계를 이끄는 두 분의 CEO를 만나보시죠.
Exclusive national funding for this program is provided by A.T. Kearney, a global management consulting firm helping businesses achieve results with capabilities in strategy, operations, and technology. A.T. Kearney, right there with you.
기업을 재창조하는 사람들, 생각을 바꾸는 사람들, 사람들을 이끄는 지도자들, 남들과는 다른 선택을 내릴 줄 아는 사람들. 이런 사람들은 산업을 발전시키고 사회를 변하게 만듭니다. 그리고 젊은이들에게 용기를 주죠. 바로 이들 CEO들이 도전에 맞서 성공을 이끌어낸 솔직한 경험담을 여러분께 들려드리는 시간, CEO 익스체인지입니다. 이제 사회자이자 CNN의 상임 분석가인 제프 그린필드를 만나보겠습니다.
Thank you, and welcome to CEO Exchange. It is a blow to my American arrogance to admit this, but coming to Europe sometimes makes me feel like I have landed in an advanced civilization. You have high-speed trains, the Channel, digital television in the home, the best wireless phone networks on Earth. But when it comes to the web, it is different. The earthquake that has shaken the American business landscape to its roots is still more or less a tremor here. Jim Rose is one of the people who wants to change all that. Since 1999, he's been CEO of QXL.com, the online auction company that is now one of the top 3 internet retailing sites in the UK. His company is a striking example of the challenge posed by Europe and its culture to this so-called instant global medium. We will meet Jim Rose of QXL.com later in the show. But first, Kevin Roberts of Saatchi & Saatchi. Internet companies proclaim themselves heralds of the new media, but they are pouring money into the old media to do it. That's one reason why ad agencies are enjoying boom times. More than a CEO, Roberts is an evangelist. He literally travels the world preaching the gospel of brand loyalty and the perils and promise of the future.
How you doing, guys?
케빈 로버츠의 뒤에는 7,000명의 직원들과 150개 사치앤사치 지점이 세계 92개국에 흩어져 있습니다. 세계적인 고객들 중에는 프록터 앤 갬블, 도요타, 소니, 휴렛 패커드 등이 있고 1999년에는 70억 달러의 광고를 찍었죠. 로버츠의 앞에는 프랑스 최대의 광고 에이전시인 퍼블리시스트와의 합병이 놓여 있습니다. 퍼블리시스트는 사치앤사치를 20억 달러에 사들였죠.
So the army did some fantastic media ideas, right? There's going to be a new revolution. We've gone through the information age, we're past the age of knowledge. That's not enough for today's consumers. They're very cynical, they're very savvy, they're very experienced. Now you have to establish trust and lust.
Smooth those out more. Yeah. Okay.
로버츠가 1997년 CEO로 들어오기 전에 유명한 회사들에게 잊혀진 사치앤사치는 수입이 줄어들고 있었죠. 이때 한 번도 광고계에서 일해본 적이 없던 로버츠가 투입됐습니다.
The first thing I did was to really reinforce the values that were already there, the nothing is impossible credo, the belief that Saatchi & Saatchi wanted to be revered as a hothouse for world-changing creative ideas. I didn't bring in any new people at all. I did it with the team that was there. And that shows, you know, what strong people we had.
로버츠가 CEO가 된 후 사치앤사치는 주문보다는 결과에 의지했습니다. 그 결과 수입이 10% 증가했죠.
There has been a steady increase in the net new billings over the years to a record $735 million in 1999. It was an absolutely stunning performance. They are winning new clients.
그러나 고객들의 마음은 변하기 쉽죠. 새로운 고객의 수가 늘었지만 사치앤사치는 국제적인 광고의 대부분을 잃었습니다. 그 규모는 3억 2,600만 불이었습니다. 그러나 주 고객들에게 집중하자는 게 로버츠의 뜻이죠.
I don't waste any time worrying about losing them. I spend my time worrying about how to grow their business faster.
특히 그는 현재 세계에서 8번째로 큰 광고 시장인 중국에 대해 많은 열정을 갖고 있습니다.
Saatchi & Saatchi is the biggest agency in China. We've been there through rough and rougher, and we'll be there for rough, rough, and even more rough, because the opportunity, the potential is fantastic.
고졸 출신인 로버츠에게 기회가 찾아온 건 술집에서 60년대 패션의 전설인 메리 퀸트를 만난 날이었습니다. 다음 날부터 메리 퀸트의 화장품 지부를 경영했죠. CEO가 된 로버츠는 중동과 캐나다에서 펩시콜라의 광고를 맡았는데 이곳에서는 펩시가 코카콜라의 판매량을 능가했습니다. 1989년 그는 가족들과 뉴질랜드로 이사를 갔죠. 양조업체인 라이언 레이선사의 CEO가 되자 수익은 4배로 뛰어올랐습니다.
We bring more emotion and more warmth into the stuff, which is where this is going.
뉴질랜드에 억양을 하고 럭비팀의 감독을 맡은 로버츠는 훌륭한 경영과 스포츠의 힘을 예로 든 책을 공동 저술했습니다. 새로운 사업을 구축하는 것보다 케빈 로버츠가 좋아하는 것은 바로 그의 가족과 테니스, 럭비, 경기 관람 예술품 수집입니다. 이런 생활 방식은 영국에서 노동자 계급으로 자라던 예전보다는 그의 꿈이었던 현재 백만장자의 생활과 더 잘 어울립니다. 백만장자의 꿈은 이미 30에 이루었죠. 그 꿈은 그가 모으는 예술품만큼이나 대범한 것이었습니다.
As we say in the States, let's get ready to rumble. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the CEO of Saatchi & Saatchi, Kevin Roberts. Have a seat. Okay. It's odd that we're putting this on the table since we're in front of an audience of business school folks, but college was something you skipped entirely, right?
Yeah, I would never recommend it in today's age. I think it was, in the 60s, it was all about growth and luck and opportunity and a lot of a creative explosion, right?
You know, I'm still wrestling with the story and the greater moral of it. Let me see if I can at least find one. When you now are the CEO of a company that I assume employs a great many people with high university educations, graduate degrees and all, what, if any, role does this educational background or lack of it have in how you lead now?
When we hired people at Saatchi & Saatchi, we're just looking for a couple of things. One, are they team players? You know, do they work in a team? Because we don't like these kind of disruptive influences. We like people who will disrupt within a team. So it's kind of one team, one dream. We look for people who are competitive, passionate, and restless. People who are driven by emotion rather than by logic and rational stuff. We just hired some account executives, and we put this ad in the paper with no logo on. We just put, would you like to join the hottest ideas shop on the planet? So we got a lot of people who were crazy enough to apply. And then we said, okay, well, it's Saatchi & Saatchi. Come in for an interview tomorrow. So a lot of people came in, kids. We didn't ask them where they'd been to school or what they did. We just gave them all a Polaroid camera and said, come back tomorrow with 3 pictures that are going to change the world. And this New Zealand kid, 22, came back in with 3 pictures of himself.
Did you hire him?
We hired him, and we've promoted him twice in 2 years. Not because he comes from New Zealand entirely.
To me, though, this is a striking illustration of what I gather is it's the core of your professional life. That is
lunacy.
No, I wouldn't put it that way. Although I'll take your guidance. I was thinking more of the instinct, the emotion, as you say, the non-rational. And my question to you is, as a CEO of a worldwide company, aren't there times when you have to do it the other way, when you have to be methodical, if you're looking at budgets, if you're looking at decisions that involve money, or can you always be this person who's thinking in this intuitive hunch way?
When I joined the company, the first thing I did was get rid of the human resource department, and the second thing I did was get rid of the budget process. So we don't do that stuff anymore. So when I go to an agency, I just look at the work. If the work's great, we're going to make money. You know, this is a real simple business. Do great work. Look for imagination, look for intuition, look for ideas. They're all kind of I words, right? Then look for E words like emotion, excitement, and energy. And if all that stuff's happening, you're going to make bucket loads of dough.
A couple more things before we bring out our next guest, and then you're going to come back and we're going to really rock and roll. But it's just a couple of things. Part of what you're blunt about is yourself. Blunt. When you worked in New Zealand with a brewery, Lion Nathan, which had some hard times, you were quoted as saying about yourself, this is you thinking, I was crap for my last 3 years. I was entrenched, conservative, and risk-averse. How, given your personality, could that have happened? And what lessons should these young folks take from the fact that, by your own measure, you found yourself in a position where you weren't you?
First of all, never let a CEO stay around for more than 7 years. Shoot him. Because, you know, year one, you spend kind of getting really excited about it, learning out who people are. Year two, you learn a bit about the business. Year three, you start having some ideas. Year four, you start executing them. Year five, they start coming to fruition. Year six, you start believing your own bullshit. And year seven, you start defending it, right? So, get out. If a CEO's been there for long, how long is the guy who's going to be on next been here?
Well, shorter than you. He's got more time than you do.
That's good then. Anyway, once they're 7 years, show them the door, man. Give them lots of money, whatever, show them the door. Rule number one. Rule number two, never work in a declining industry. Man, it is just too hard. It is too hard. I'm a growth guy. I'm all about people. I'm all about taking risks. And that gets tougher and tougher and tougher if you're in an industry which really needs process decentralization, re-engineering, restructuring, and all this gobbledygook, right? I don't like closing down stuff, you know? So I was really no good at it. And I stayed there resisting that because I didn't want to fail. And yet I was failing more and more every day.
One more thing in this area. I know you've dropped the word advertising from Saatchi & Saatchi, but you do advertise. You sell anything you wouldn't sell. I mean, there are companies that won't take cigarette ads. There are companies that won't do politicians. There are companies that won't do, you know, genetically modified food.
Yeah.
Anything you won't take?
If it's legal, we'll do it.
No problems about this?
Zero. You know, I don't have a direct line to the Almighty, nor do I have a direct line to government policy. So if it's legal, we'll do it. And if it's profitable, we'll do it a lot.
Kevin will be back with us later, and we will try to draw him out of his shell. But for now, let me thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, say goodbye to early to Kevin Roberts. I don't know how many stereotypes were smashed in those last few minutes, but I suspect a fair number. For a British CEO, our next guest is unusual, and that is because he is an American. Jim Rose joined QXL.com in 1999, and he turned down an opportunity to head a Silicon Valley-based startup in the process. QXL.com is the Euro challenger to Priceline, eBay, Yahoo, and his biggest weapon in this fight is the fact that even online people seem to like to shop closer to home. By the end of 2001, there will be more people online in Europe than in the United States, and Jim Rose has a plan to capture those eyeballs along with their pocketbooks.
So how you doing?
화요일에 짐 로스는 영국 아니면 독일 혹은 폴란드, 그것도 아니면 QXL.com이 있는 유럽 다른 13개국 중 어느 한 곳에 있을 겁니다. 최초의 다국어 경매 사이트죠.
De QXL et tout.
Also wir haben es schon in dem Sinne, dass eben, ich meine, es geht alles nach
9개국 언어로 운영되고 13개의 화폐 단위가 쓰이며 13가지 세금을 계산할 수 있기 때문에 QXL에서는 국경을 넘나드는 거래를 할 수 있습니다. QXL은 특이하게도 유럽의 사업체지만 미국인 CEO를 두고 있습니다.
There's so many things happening and to be done. And being part of that, being in the middle of that as a major e-commerce player in Europe is an exciting place to be. And those are the things that keep me here, both the cultural side and the business opportunities.
짐 로스는 미국 일리노이주 출신입니다. 아버지는 변호사로 활동 중이고 어머니는 평범한 주부죠. 고등학교 때는 아르바이트로 켄터키 프라이 치킨점에서 일하기도 했다는군요. 고등학교를 졸업한 로스는 KFC에 취직을 했고 그 후로도 10곳에 더 직장을 다녔습니다. 그 로스는 대학에 진학해서 마침내 노스웨스턴 야간 대학에서 MBA를 취득하게 됩니다. 1993년 그는 AC 닐슨의 영국 지점장으로 임명받아 런던으로 가게 됩니다.
You could be a small fish in a big pond, if you will, in the U.S. at that point in time, or be a big fish in a small pond here and really extract those opportunities. And that's clearly what I saw in the European marketplace. And that's why I came here.
1996년 로스는 블랙웰 출판사의 CEO로 채용되었고 최초의 온라인 서점 중 하나를 시작했습니다. 2년 후 그는 영국의 거대 통신 기업 유나이티드 뉴스 앤 미디어의 지부인 유나이티드 인포메이션 그룹의 CEO가 되었죠. 1999년 맡게 된 QXL은 겨우 4개국에 진출한 상태였습니다. 그러나 이제는 유럽 11개국에 자리를 잡았고 아시아로 진출합니다.
Asia could be the next stop for QXL. And they're also getting into personal finance and other areas besides auction. They just started a credit card, which is really going to be the cornerstone for their move into personal finance.
휴식을 취할 때는 짐노스는 바다낚시나 골프를 친다고 합니다. 그러나 QXL에 돌아오면 언제나 일에 빠져 있죠. 복도에서도 회의를 합니다. 걸어가면서도 면접을 하죠. 파트너 기업에게 QXL의 도전적인 면을 보여주는 겁니다. QXL과 경매 시장을 만들어가는 파트너는 AOL과 익사이트, 영국의 블록버스터입니다. 또 쌍방향 경매 방식을 위해 방송국과도 관계를 맺고 있죠. QXL의 고객 중 70%는 한 번 이상 구매했던 사람들이죠. 2003년에는 QXL도 예상보다 1년 빨리 흑자로 돌아설 수 있을 겁니다. 그러나 미국 기업들도 만만치 않습니다. 이베이, 아마존, 야후의 존재는 이미 대단하죠. 수입 총액은 이베이가 더 많을지도 모릅니다. 그러나 QXL에 등록된 고객 수는 1,700만 명 더 많습니다. 로스는 다른 방향으로 개발을 모색 중이죠. 짐 로스 스스로 밝히듯 일 중독자인 그가 밤에도 깨어있는 이유는 이런 경쟁 때문이 아니라 최고의 기술과 고객 서비스를 유지하기 위해서입니다. 짐 로스는 자신이 결정을 빨리 내리는 편이라 공무원이나 정원사가 되었다면 형편없었을 거라고 하네요.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the CEO of QXL.com, Jim Rose. Welcome. Have a seat. So, when you were in high school, you were running a number, I gather, of Kentucky Fried Chicken franchises?
Exactly.
So at the risk of overgeneralizing, is it a really useful thing for people who want to make a career in business to really move, to get that under their belts very young, that experience of dealing with crisis, managing people?
I think so. I think life gives you its turns, if you will, as you go through them. Certain things are put in front of you and how you make your decisions and where you go. It happened to work out well for me, but I think learning very early, I've always kind of been very early in terms of managing a business. I was 16, 17 years old, having to close a store, responsible for $1 million a year store and so on, and the people issues that surround that. I think those experiences, the more you get earlier, from bad customer experience to problems to having failures in that process, strengthens you at a very young age, and it's all about experience. I think one of the things you see with the internet right now, particularly out of the US and in Europe, is a lot of people, a lot of bright people, a lot of energetic people and so on, but they lack the fundamental experience about running a business in all of its kind of broad-based issues. And I think those early foundations have been helpful for me.
Let's talk about what I alluded to at the outset, which has to be one of the most daunting challenges of launching or managing or running a company like QXL.com in Europe. You're dealing with 10 or 11 different languages, and yet you have this system which I gather has begun to solve this problem. Tell us about it, because I find it absolutely striking that we can do this.
Yeah, well, from a technological point of view, I mean, it's not that rocket science. We just did it early, got focused, and were able to implement it there. But one of the strengths is all the weaknesses of the U.S. companies you talk about. You go through the blue chip names of the U.S. Markets there. How many of them are very successful in Europe? Not many. And the reason for that is the lack of understanding of these markets from a consumer's point of view, about language, about currency, about content, about how to talk to them in terms of promotion, marketing, merchandising, all of those issues. So even though there's this cyberspace out here and this .com and this virtual world, at the end of the day, if I'm French, I want QXL.fr. And if I'm Italian, I want QXL.it. And the thing about QXL, it's about giving consumers choice. So if I'm an Italian, for example, if I go into QXL.it, all the navigation's in Italian, all the currency's in Italian. And even when I go on a category to search, I'll see all the Italian stuff first. But if I want to see the stuff in that category in Germany and France and Sweden or whatever the case may be, I can do that.
As you look ahead with Yahoo and eBay and Priceline clearly looking at a European market, is an alliance or a merger something that's very much in the possibility for you?
Well, I think it is. I think one of the issues, we're getting pretty big pretty fast, so I think that limits the options. And one of the things I do as a CEO of the business is I can't focus on things I don't control, yeah? So if someone wants to do something above me, then those things happen. What we've done at QXL is we've made 8 acquisitions in about 8 months. We've consolidated this space, and if you look at the European landscape, no other industry segment is consolidated at all, even the ISP and the portal market. The online auction market is pretty much consolidated at this point in time. We probably spent about $1.7 billion in terms of acquisitions and currencies to get the critical mass and scale much quicker there. So my focus is to develop the best pan-European business I can. If people up top want to kind of look and consolidate in strategic alliances, we'd certainly entertain that, but I can't really focus on that. at all. I think one of the unfortunate things about what's going on in the new economy is the strength of the U.S. and the U.S. capital markets is so strong. It's had 5 years to develop and mature, yeah? If you look in the European marketplace, in about 8 months, 8 months in all of Europe at a population 380 million versus 260 million, something like that, in terms of where internet penetration is and all that kind of stuff. And they're kind of getting the European markets in an 8-month cycle have to behave like a mature market. And hopefully the European markets, if you will, can have the strength to drive through and not be drawn down by the maturing nature, if you will, of the U.S. marketplace.
So what's the key to you? As you look, I mean, I almost picture you as Sir Francis Drake and eBay and Priceline and Yahoo, the Spanish Armada. Now that's good for you since Drake won. Yeah. But I mean, as you see these giants coming to Europe, is there one key element to your strategy that says, here's how we're going to make sure that we survive this?
Yeah, well, first of all, let's make it, all those players are here, yeah? Amazon's been here for a year with auctions, Yahoo's been here for over a year, eBay's been here for about 2 years and so on. So all those players are here, and we still continue to grow at 100% plus per quarter, still continue to lead in these marketplace, media metric statistics and so on, so we certainly drive that. I think the thing for us, our differentiation, our whole point, is the localized service. You take things as simple as credit cards in America, everybody's got a credit card, what's the big deal? You go to places like the Netherlands and Germany, credit card penetration, high teens, low 20s. What kind of other kind of payment mechanisms do you employ there? You have to do things differently in those markets in the way those people transact and the way those people feel comfortable doing that. So you've got to do different things with your systems to enable that to happen, and that localization is the key strength.
A couple of months ago, as we now talk, your stock, the depository receipts in America, shot through the roof because a buy recommendation from an analyst who valued your stock at, it was like $333 a share, some insane amount. It turned out he was a 28-year-old analyst with about a year experience on the street. And I would think in some ways this could be as big a problem for you as the other side when a stock takes a dip.
Well, you got a couple issues there. Managing the capital markets is a huge task in itself. QXL is dual listed, which is quite a unique thing. We're listed both in London as well as in NASDAQ in the US. You've got the SEC in one environment, you got the LSE and the London Stock Exchange in that environment, you got rules and regulations there. You got investment bankers and research analysts on both sides of the pond having different views of the world. So the bulk of my time, unfortunately, recently has been on capital markets, talking to institutions, investors, and those kind of issues to make sure the right message gets out and the right communications there. So that's a very time-consuming process. Spend a lot of time doing that.
Okay. This is a good time now to stop and to ask Kevin Roberts to rejoin us for the next part of this program. Please welcome back Kevin Roberts. I want to start by asking a question about corporate cultures. In a sense, both of you, in one sense, were outsiders when you became CEO. Kevin, you became CEO of Saatchi, having never worked in an ad agency. So the question is this: how, as an outsider, do you come in and establish your authority, your credibility, and the fact that you are someone to be respected, but also not to be terrorized by? What did you do your first day as a CEO of Saatchi?
The first day I talked about our purpose, which was to transform the business's brands and reputations of our clients. And I talked about our focus, which was to just make the best ads in the category in every country we were in.
So the story that the first day in New York, you walked through the office with a baseball bat is a vicious distortion?
Well, I actually didn't go into New York for a couple of weeks because I was going around really where the people were. One advantage that I had at Saatchi, I had two advantages. One, I'd never worked in advertising, so that's a really good place to start. So I didn't know what could be done, couldn't be done, what should be done, what shouldn't be done, any of that nonsense.
When you came over, when you came into this company, I take it most of the people, as we established, who work for you were much younger. Mm-hmm. You're an American. They're mostly European.
Yep.
Did that pose any particular challenge?
First of all, this is actually my third kind of new CEO role or managing director role in Europe, in a European context. So it wasn't I just kind of got off the plane and said, here I am out of America and I'm going to solve all the world's problems. I had two previous track records here in the UK marketplace dealing with global businesses and global enterprises. I just see myself as another member of the team. I've got a certain set of roles and responsibilities to do these other people, and if anyone kind of misses what we have to do, the organization will miss. And the first couple of weeks and months is just listen to these people and understand what's going on, and then you kind of formulate some views.
Kevin, when I read your speeches that you give literally all over the world, I don't think you've spoken in Antarctica, but as far as I can tell, it's about the only place you haven't. You really do talk about what you do so much different from a job. I mean, it does sound to me almost like, as I said at the beginning, an evangelist, I mean, a passionate belief. Is this what drives you more than anything else, more than the material stuff, more than... I mean, your wife and family live in New Zealand, right? And you live in there and New York and London. You get to spend how much time with them?
A week a month. What's wrong with that picture? It's perfect, right? I mean,
well, now wait.
The reason I've been married 25 years is that I'm away 3 weeks a month, you know?
But Kevin...
That's her view.
Is it perfect? I mean, it seems to me that's a high price to pay for driving this worldwide company, that you don't see your kids 3 out of every 4 weeks.
Look, I think balance is a lot of nonsense. I think you've got to avoid moderation. Nothing succeeds like excess. Nothing succeeds like excess, man. It's about passion. I'd rather be doing this than anything in the world. The chance to talk to you guys is pretty exciting for me, to talk about what I believe in. It's great. I don't think it's evangelism. It's passion, it's love. I think the only thing you got to do when you quit school is go and do something you really love. Because if you really love, you're probably going to be really good at it. If you're probably really good at it, you probably make bucket loads of dough, and this is a great circle to get into. Your wife will love that. You'll be able to do great stuff with her, your husband, your kids. Passion.
One more question about corporate culture. And
that's almost an oxymoron nowadays, huh?
Corporate culture?
Yeah.
Okay. Then let me talk about then...
You know what the right word is? It's spirit.
Okay, corporate spirit. That's a better word considering the question I want to ask. And that is, how as a leader do you deal with the people who you lead when things don't go right? For example, you had a great year last year, but one of the things that happened was Delta left Saatchi & Saatchi. It's a $100 million account, and there were people at Saatchi who bled for that company. When you get that news as the CEO, what do you do?
Oh, I was there. It was me they fired.
All right. What do you do when you go back to the shop?
Well, we didn't take a Delta plane back out of Atlanta, I got to tell you that.
Kevin, if you didn't take a Delta plane back out of Atlanta, you took a freighter, because that's the... But once you got back to wherever you were going, Auckland or London or...
Look, I don't think it's about winning at all, you know. I think it's about being the best you can be and competing in a team and always improving, you know. Don't give people what they want, give them what they never dreamed possible, right? You will fail, you will lose. It doesn't matter. We welcome that. We think it's great, you know. Learn from it. A genius is a guy who makes the same mistake once, right? So we lose Delta. There's plenty more airlines out there. Why did we lose it? We lost it because we didn't do fantastic work. So we deserve to lose it. So we all looked at the work and we said, it's not fantastic. Why isn't it fantastic? Because they didn't turn us on.
And you,
it's their fault.
And for you?
I'm used to running global businesses with 5,000 people. To have a pan-European business with 300 people, you really can get your arms around that and communicate with the people fairly effectively. So it's that recent conversation. We don't have kind of big accountant situations like that going on. But when things don't go right, you regroup. What happened? Why did this happen? Learn from it and kind of move on. And in a world, and especially in internet time with your decision making, you kind of got to go a lot on gut. You know, as long as you get more right than wrong, you're kind of on the right path because time is of the essence to move.
One of the things that we are going to do is pose a series of questions from the faculty here. And the first one is to both of you. It comes from Linda Grattan, who's Associate Professor of Organizational Behavior.
I know that in America you've used stock options as a real way of creating high-performing workforces. Here in Europe we think it's all down to commitment. What do you think?
I think the key thing is to build a sense of community. And I think there's been too much about money, about financial benefits, about pay for performance, about results, about Wall Street quarterly earnings, about nonsensical reports written by merchant bankers. The hard part is how do you build a sense of community? I suspect you have fantastic community in your company.
Do you?
Yeah,
I get that feeling emanating from you.
Yeah, definitely. And I can feel it. I can feel it.
And are stock options part of the inducement for your folks?
They're kind of a leg on the stool, if you will. They're not the only thing. It is about this work environment, whether you want to use the word community, work environment, whatever it is, but that sense of belonging and their sense of contribution to do what they want to do, recognition, not just financial recognition, but just, hey, great job, or just being recognized among their peers that they did something really good. And of course, certainly compensation has a role in that, but it is one piece, not the be-all and end-all kind of components, all those things collectively that make the right combination.
I want to shift gears here and talk about, it's one of the great buzzword phrases of stuff, and that is branding. This is a quote from Kevin Roberts. Products and services are becoming commoditized. That leaves brand as the only basis for differentiation and choices. The suggestion there is And Toyota's one of your biggest clients, right? Toyota's going to make a great car, but so is Nissan, and so is Honda, and so is anybody. Well, when you say product, you know, this is the gospel according to Kevin. If products are becoming commoditized, and brand is the only basis for differentiation of choices, then what is it you are selling people?
I've moved on from that.
Beg pardon?
So I've moved on from that.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to tell you this, but I will now. So I now believe branding's dead.
Kevin, you realize this speech is about 2 weeks old.
Yeah. Internet speed, baby.
I guess so.
Where I think we're moving from is we started with products, and products are about functional things, right? And what does a product do? It gives you a functional benefit. It does something for you, a car. We then moved to trademarks. What's a trademark? It protects that product for you, the consumer, gives you guarantee of what it is, and it protects it for the manufacturer. Then Procter & Gamble invented brands. And what do brands do? They give you fantastic information, masses of it. They tell you why you should buy it, what the strategic benefit is. I don't think brands are going to cut it in the next decade because I think you guys are too smart. I think what you're now looking for, I think you're moving from trust to lust. You're moving from brands to love marks. And what you want now are relationships. You want a relationship, and I'm sure that's what you're looking for with regular consumers and loyal buyers, right? And once you have a relationship that transcends information, brands die. I'll give you an example, which is two examples that spring to mind in my mind. My daughter Rebecca, for her 18th birthday, we bought her a red Volkswagen Bug. You know, the little Beetle? Currently, that stays in the garage because there's no room in her bedroom. If she could, this is a family friend that sleeps in the garage because Rebecca's got no room in the bedroom. She is in love with that car. It's a lovable thing. People pat it, touch it, take photographs of it. Okay? The Apple iMac. This is the most sensual product since the vibrator. You put an iMac on your desk and people stroke it, they touch it. There was this great ad, which we didn't do, and I wish we had it, and it just had 5 iMacs, you know, the orange, red, yellow, and underneath it said one word, yum. So I think we're moving from brands to love marks.
You know what we're going to do? We're going to put this to a little test here, and I'll show you how we're going to do it. Now, I know you have an ad agency, and that's fine. But bear with me a bit.
Who are they?
Leo Burnett, actually.
Oh, they used to be fantastic.
Let's say you were coming to meet a very important CEO of a significant agency about this whole question of branding. I want you to tell Kevin what you want from his agency, and then I want Kevin to tell you how he might deliver it. Just have the conversation. I'm butting out for a minute. Mr. Rose?
Here's the pitch.
Yeah. But you tell him what you're looking for.
This is very much appreciated. Go ahead. Normally you can never get to meet these guys.
Yeah, right.
Just remember that commissions can work many ways. I'm there. What are you looking for in a branding?
No, it's as simple as what I talked about here. I want to develop a European blue-chip internet brand that has values about customer values, employees, kind of trust, reliability, and also value driven from a customer's point of view. They can get value and trust from that. I want a brand that's going to stand the test of time, that's going to have the values, the brand values we want associated with it. We're talking about trust, you know, responsibility, customer value, and proposition there. And it's going to really stand the test of time. As simple as that.
You're on.
Yeah. I think what we would do with that is go back actually to something that Bill Bernbeck said way back, which is you got to interrogate the product and interrogate the brand. And we would have to learn a hell of a lot more about what you do and what differentiates you. Then we would take you a little bit, because that was a very left brain brief, and it was a brief that's designed to give you competitive position at the cortex level of the brain. It is not going to get into the deeply reptilian part that will make a consumer want to have a lifetime love affair with you. So what we would try to do with Jim is to break down the marketing speak and the business speak and get much more into the deep emotions that I know he has. I know you have it for your brand, and I know his people, these 300 people of disciples, will have unbelievable emotional connections to your company, I suspect, that are very deep. but they're not used to spewing them out on the table because they're used to talking like him, you know, in this capital market kind of talk that the capital markets reward. But that's not what he wants for us. He wants us to build an emotional lifeline between your heart and his brand. And so we would probe that.
Well, Jim, it sounds like he wants to just peel that cerebral part of you out and
He wants to give me a love mark, I think.
Yeah,
That's exactly right. And I think you've actually got the potential to do one.
Exactly. No, he's absolutely spot on. And the challenge with our brand is we actually have two constituents. We have two customers. We have sellers on our site, and we have buyers, and you got to talk to them in different ways. And that's one of the challenges all the agencies we've kind of gone through really struggle with, trying to bring that essence out for both constituencies out of a single brand.
Before we leave the branding issue, there's a question for you from another member of the faculty. Mark Ritson is Assistant Professor of Marketing.
I'd like to ask Jim Rose, what's been the most powerful tool that he's used in building the QXL brand?
Originally, I would have said it was online distribution, so 100% of our sales and marketing spend was in that area. And then as we moved on, we realized that's not the most effective. That's very expensive kind of proposition. The cost to acquire a customer is very expensive. And now the real powerful tools are the offline stuff. We've moved over 60% of our business is offline versus online, print, radio, billboard, outdoor, very effective. And now we're kind of into a third wave that you kind of, and it's very much evolving with, as internet penetration goes on. When you have 10% internet penetrations in a country, you got to be where those 10% are. Television advertising is not the right thing because 90% aren't going to understand what the hell you're talking about. So you got to be where they are. So now we're kind of in our third phase, still doing some of those things behind us. We're finding very effective is affiliate programming, having affiliates where people, kind of the networked economics that go there. And what I call affinity marketing, having ourselves associated with big brands. We've run the exclusive rights to auction off Wembley Stadium when it comes down at the end of this year.
You are auctioning off famous Wembley Stadium brick by brick.
Well, the whole thing, from the turf to all the nameplates of the rock stars to the Queen's box to the Queen's toilet to everything, all the bricks, everything is going to be sold in there.
I think the most famous thing they did was this Wembley thing. I just thought it lifted your profile from here to there, you know, because I'm a sports, so you were aiming at me, right, and you hit me like that because your awareness. And then suddenly I start to develop an emotional bond with you because that was so much part of my history, my heritage, my tradition, my values,
Just to explain,
that I gave you all those.
The last area that I want to focus on is probably one of the most frequently discussed about the impact of new media on old, and that is the notion that what's coming down the pike is going to revolutionize traditional media. From your experience, are the consumers, are the customers who use QXL.com different in how they approach products and services from a customer that would have gone into a store or a shop 30 or 40 years ago?
Yeah, I think very much so. I think the medium, if you will, the internet medium allows so many different things to happen, especially in an online auction world. You talk about online auctions, but it's variable priced e-commerce is another way of thinking about that. And if you look at the history of the world, you know, most of the world has been in a variable priced trade and barter kind of world, yeah? And only in Western society have you gone to fixed pricing because it's more efficient to not negotiate for Coca-Cola or whatever the case may be. But you still negotiate for your house, you still negotiate for your car. So the internet's allowed kind of a mass market, a global market, a country market, whatever, to actually maximize price and actually ride, if you remember your old supply-demand curves from the good old days, to actually get consumer surplus out of there and ride that price curve down.
My 18-year-old son, having more or less grown up with a computer, the argument goes, has a completely different relationship to media than I did, growing up staring at the 10-inch black and white television set. He will not be persuadable in the way I was by the skills that you have, to which you would say what?
Don't think he's become more cynical, more savvy, and all these buzzwords that you read. That's nonsense. The reverse is true. The only problem he's got is that he's living in the attention economy, and he has so many choices in front of him now because you can choose. You're bombarded with magazines, with radio stations. Everybody's aiming at the market of one, right? And you're also absolutely time stressed because you do have so many choices. People are sleeping 1.5 hours less a day because they can go on the net, you know, whenever they like. They can do all this cool stuff. And, you know, I'm sitting in New Zealand and I can buy the Queen's toilet from Wembley. That's pretty cool. I was never able to do that before at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I think that what's happening now is that people, you have to hit people now with your messages straight here and here, okay? They're no longer information within, you know, the best way is to hit them here in the first 7 seconds. You don't have 60 seconds, you don't have 30 seconds. You have to hit them quicker, And then you have to tell them to go somewhere else for the information, whether that's on the website, whether that's on the package or whatever.
Okay, we turn once again to the faculty. It comes from Julian Birkinshaw, who is an associate professor of strategic and international management.
Kevin, in the online world, you're coming up against entrepreneurial, new, fierce competitors, competitors that you've never come across before in your traditional business. Can you talk about some of the innovative, creative things that you're doing to confront that challenge?
Yeah, we are becoming them. That's it. We are them. We are this animal. You know, this is just fun for us. You know, it's just fantastic. And we've got to become them. We don't want to buy them. We don't want to compete with them. We want to be them.
I don't know what else to say except this. In a moment, we're going to turn to some questions from our audience of future MBAs. But first, some background on the London Business School.
1965년부터 런던 경영대학원은 런던의 중심에 자리 잡고 있습니다. 코린티안식 기둥과 10개의 둥근 지붕으로 된 입구는 런던의 역사적 상징이죠. 런던 경영대학원은 뛰어난 관리자와 지도자를 양성하는 국제적 관문입니다. 올해도 런던 경영대학원은 수많은 학생들을 배출했습니다. 600명의 MBA 중 80%는 외국 학생이죠. 파이낸셜 타임즈지는 런던 경영대학원을 유럽 최고의 학교로 뽑았습니다.
It's time now for our audience of future MBAs to ask questions that they have for our guests. Please tell us your name and your question. Go ahead.
My name is Stuart Mills. You both mentioned that you started getting passionate about business at the age of 17. How important starting that early do you think has been to your future careers?
I think from my perspective, and it's in hindsight, it's been important. At the time it was happening, you just kind of did what you did. But I think I've always been able to kind of, because of the experiences I had at a young age in managing businesses or people, and get rid of the flavor and the taste for all that kind of stuff. I really enjoyed that at a young age. It allowed me to have a much faster pace of kind of developmental experiences if you went through. And I had those experiences at a young age. Then I went to undergraduate, and then I got a job and went to graduate school at the same time when I had a job as well. All those things in a short period of time really allowed my experience level to accelerate quite quickly. So I think very helpful.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was all just luck and happenstance and just being in a bar at the right time. So start whenever you're ready, you know?
That should be a fairly easy test, actually, to just wander into a bar and see what's what. Your name and your question, please.
My name is Carmen Sutherland. My question is, both of you have at one point mentioned your shareholders and shareholder value, in particular Mr. Rowe is working so closely with the capital markets. So we pretty much have focused very much on a stakeholder view, taking a broader view of the business and looking at more of a stakeholder than just a shareholder. Would you say that that's realistic in everyday business, or really do you just think about your shareholder value that you're adding?
Oh, the stakeholder thing is the right thing to do. I mean, I may have talked about capital markets quite a bit, but I talked about customers and employees equally, and I think those two, customers really, if you take care of your customers and their employees in that process, especially in a service-related industry, the shareholders will be taken care of. So don't mislead my overemphasis on shareholders in terms of capital markets. It's an important piece, but all the stakeholders and constituencies involved are very, very important there.
And I'm 100% on that. Slightly reordering it, the most important thing to me is my people, building a great sense of community. If the people are totally inspired, totally committed, they'll do great work. Great work leads to permanently infatuated clients. Permanently infatuated clients give you lots of money. Lots of money gives you real happy shareholders. So I put 75% of my time against people, 25% against clients, and I let the share market decide what it decides.
My name is Jane Cody. Another question on the capital markets. How do you make sure that the capital markets understand and attach a proper value to the decisions you make which affect the long term rather than the short term?
Yeah, I mean, you don't. It's as simple as that. I mean, the capital markets have a mind of their own, and one of the things I've learned is you can't focus on it that much. I mean, clearly, if you're doing the right things to develop the business model, you're all right. Some things I think are really great and exciting and really kind of strategic happening. Capital markets are flat. Some of the things you kind of do are just kind of, in my mind, just kind of good things. They respond extremely well. So if you get too caught up with the capital markets and watch it too close and all those kind of things, you'll go nuts. Just keep building your business, and it will take care of itself over time. And these are very much long-term kind of propositions, not about last week or this week kind of thing, but long-term kind of stuff. But it'll drive you crazy trying to anticipate what you think the capital markets are going to do to any kind of business decision that we take. I found that in a very short period of time.
Set targets, meet, beat, repeat.
My name is Julie Green. A question actually mostly for Kevin, but I'd be interested in the other opinion as well. Kevin, you said that CEOs should either get out or be kicked out after 7 years. You've been with Saatchi about 3 years. What's next for you?
I'm going to build a bunch of businesses in New Zealand with my kids, entrepreneurial businesses. I've already started up 4 or 5, and so I'm working with them now, and we're going to go into people-related, small entrepreneurial businesses. You like that? You've only been there you've got 6 years grace, I guess, under Kevin's rule.
But hang on, I'm in the internet space.
Yeah.
That's 7 years. My time is up. I've expired. I've passed my sell-by date, basically. The internet's a much shorter cycle than that, I think. But it's about reinventing yourself, reinventing the company. I think one of the things Kevin was alluding to is people kind of get stale. They don't think creatively or kind of reinvent themselves. And I think that's a very important piece to do. So right now and for the foreseeable future, with the new medium, with the internet, I can see doing what I do today for quite some period of time, or doing similar related kind of things.
You know, the best thing I've ever learned is by running small businesses. I own the biggest bar in New Zealand. I own a restaurant in New Zealand. And I've got like 70, 80, 90 people working in these places. And I have more fun doing that. And I learn more by doing that than I do by running Saatchi & Saatchi. So I think that one of the things everyone should do is get into a small entrepreneurial business as soon as you can and stay there. Don't wait till you retire.
I'm Morten Jorgensen. I'd like to pick up on Kevin's last remark. You seem to be implying that you're not having fun at Saatchi & Saatchi, or that you're having more fun doing your own thing. How do you ensure that when you go to work in a company like Saatchi & Saatchi, that you have the passion to make your colleagues and employees deliver their best? How do you do that?
By total belief. I don't have to ensure it. I live it. I am it. Every day for me is just rock and roll at Saatchi & Saatchi. I love it. But I spend a week a month in New Zealand. I spend a week in New York, a week in London, a week traveling around the rest of the world.
Just to follow up, your hours are pretty long, I gather, right? What's a normal day for you? We should just let this audience know.
Well, it's 7 days a week. I mean, my last 48 hours have been, I was in Chicago, I flew all night, I got home, changed suitcases, went to Paris, was in meetings till 12:30 last night in Paris, up at 5 this morning, into Amsterdam for lunch, into Rotterdam for afternoon meetings, into London to do this, and I still got stuff back at the office to do later on tonight. So it's that kind of stuff that is in the space. But it seems when you go through that, it seems kind of like a chore, but I got to say, you know, keep talking about this thing. I love what I do. I love it. That's what drives me, and if I could do more of it, I would. It is fun. And my schedule rest of this week is Stockholm, Frankfurt, Denmark, a board meeting tomorrow morning we got to do. So it's that kind of lifestyle. And it's not for everybody, but it's certainly something I enjoy.
But I got to get on to whatever he's taking, you know.
I'm exhausted. Your question, your name and question.
Hi, I'm Christian Barajan. My question is for kind of both of you. You've both come in and transformed the businesses probably from where they were. And led it into something different from what it was when you actually came in. And it takes a lot of commitment from what you've said, Jim. You said there's a lot of commitment with probably travel from one place to the other and lack of sleep. As you said, you've been with 3 hours of sleep. But you have that commitment, but how do you actually transform that commitment from you to your employees? And in other cases, probably the stakeholders, more the family that you have. How would you actually get that going?
Start with setting the greatest imaginable challenge, turning that into an inspirational dream, sharing the dream, giving it focus, and providing a deep sense of community. And then people will work at peak performance every day of their lives.
So I've got a different view. I mean, Kevin talks about doesn't believe in leadership, and I think traditional leadership of the dictator at the top of the pyramid, I think those days are gone. But leadership is really about, it's infectious to a degree. If people see what I'm doing, obviously we set goals and objectives and all that, but see what I'm doing, it very much is infectious, and it really kind of permeates through the organization, that people see you do it because you want to do it, and it very much has almost its own kind of networked effect, if you will, in that process. So I think leadership is more by example, role model, but seeing the kind of things I'm doing and the commitment I have actually leads through, and you create a culture of a way that, kind of some people can handle it and some people can't in that process, and they move on. So I very much see it driven through that way, very infectious.
My view is that organizations are full of inspirational players, and that too many organizations look to the top for that inspiration, and they look for the charismatic, incredible CEO.
Whereas in fact, I look around here and there's probably 30 or 40 inspirational players. And if I could unlock you to inspire your peers, inspire your bosses, inspire your colleagues, inspire your partners, that's one hell of a lot more effective, than just having this, charismatic leader at the top. I mean, Jack Welch, I think, built General Electric through masses and masses of inspirational players at every level of the company. Go ahead.
Hello, my name's Gemma Harmon. It's a question for Kevin. Kevin, you've talked a lot about and described, in fact, passion as a fundamental element of your business and indeed your life. As someone who is passionate and someone who's often heard organisations talk about passion, but in reality it's just a few bubbles in a frying pan, I'd like to know, first of all, from you, what do you personally do to ensure passion is kept alive in your organisation? And secondly, what's your next big passion?
I think that I don't do anything to ensure anything, okay? Ensuring stuff and certainty is what I fight against and what I abhor. I love uncertainty. I think one of the key roles of a CEO is to create havoc wherever he goes. And, we live in uncertain times, so I don't want to ensure passion. Passion is something you feel, you have. It's there, it's not there. I've just been in Paris, like you. Paris, obviously, the place to be like the last 2 nights. And Paris is a very passionate town. When I'm in Paris, I feel very passionate. Yeah? We have lots of problems. I think we choose great clients who want great work. We talk about the work all the time, and we hire the right kind of people who come to us passionate. I don't think you can teach or ensure passion.
Yeah, I mean, I subscribe to that exactly. Exactly. You can't teach it.
I'm Sanjeev Dasgupta. This is a question for Mr. Rose. You mentioned you've made about 8 acquisitions over the last 8 months. Evidence has it that over half of the mergers tend to fail. How do you intend to manage this risk?
Yeah, one of the things I did very early on from my previous experience in kind of, bigger kind of traditional companies is to actually overhire Wayne Gretzky. I don't know if people follow hockey at all, but Wayne Gretzky is one of the great hockey players. And one of the things people would say about Wayne Gretzky is what made him so great. And he said he'd always skate to where the puck was going to be, not where it is. And I very much built our organization on where it was going to be, not where it was. So I hired very kind of senior, a lot of management bandwidth brought into the organization to want to accommodate the organic growth that we see at 100% plus per quarter, but also the M&A activities. I didn't want our organization to be constrained by people. The market opportunities actually be developed there. So we've done it that way. So we've made them very much in the mind of how do we integrate these things, how do they not become a problem for us.
Yeah, my name is Sanjeev Kanoria. I'm an alumni of the London Business School and a bricks and clicks entrepreneur. My question is to Kevin. Kevin, you talked about arousing lust and putting love marks on people. And putting love marks on people to create loyalty and to create an everlasting brand. My question is very simple. How would you create loyalty on a very fickle-minded internet community where loyalty is regarded as only a click away?
By never giving them what they want, but giving them what they never dreamed possible every time they click on.
I think we've got one more question, and it's you, sir.
Hi, I'm Asif Ahmed. I'm also an alumni. I would actually like Jim to answer that question as well, first, before I pose my question.
In terms of loyalty, it's actually about the service you provide there for it. I mean, in our business, you're kind of a click away, but if you look at kind of when you get the community and the network kind of economics, all the things you kind of read about there, people stay. So we continue to bring services, new functionality, new features and capabilities to those people. So when they stay there, there's really nowhere else to go for them because they've got everything they need there and things they didn't even imagine they needed.
Okay, thank you. One of the things you emphasized on what gives you the edge in Europe is your localized concentration, your local focus. What is to stop your major competitors, eBay and Amazon, following the same strategy? Surely it's just a technology proposition.
Yeah, no, it's not that way at all. And you got to remember, the thing about consumer-to-consumer auctions is about liquidity, and it's about the whole liquidity, where buyers want to be where sellers are, and sellers want to be where buyers are. So once you have that natural marketplace in there, you can't penetrate it. And I'll use an example out of the US. eBay's been in the US for a long time. They charge very big fees. Yahoo launches auctions about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. The most trafficked portal around. They launch a free service. Can't dent eBay. Why? Because of the liquidity that eBay has. So the key for us, you hear these words about first mover advantage, you hear about all these buzzwords, critical mass. They're very much important here. You can't crack it. Once liquidity is there, once that marketplace is established, it's very tough to take it away. You just can't come up with new technology or a new kind of proposition.
So it's critical.
Or as you might put it, they've come to love their portal.
Exactly right. It's becoming a love mark.
Well, to quote a fairly famous Englishman, our revels now are ended. I'd like to thank our audience from the London Business School for being here very much. Thanks to our guest, Kevin Roberts, CEO of Saatchi & Saatchi, Jim Rose, CEO of QXL.com. If this meeting of the minds has helped contribute to the world's marketplace of ideas, that is the business of CEO Exchange. I'm Jeff Greenfield. Thank you very much for being here. Goodbye.
To be kind of told what to do, they like crash and burn in a week.
But all you can do is be passionate, have a great idea, and then get really lucky. But you know what luck is? But you know what it is? It's when preparation meets opportunity.
And it's not a fad. You know, it's clearly the internet's a trend, and all the metrics are telling you where it's going. And then I saw the business model, and I could look to the U.S. and see that model and adjust it to the way I saw, and I just took a chance on consumer uptake.
You got to have table stakes, right? So you've got to have a vision, you've got to have focus, you've got to have the last detailed core.
So we just bring brand and technology, i.e. no cost basically proposition. They throw in the money and the local expertise, so we control an organization with no capital.
And I said, our inspirational dream is to win the world